I call to order this regular meeting of the Zoning Code Update Citizen Advisory Committee for Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Could we have a roll call, please?
Chair Spence,
Here?
Member Conk. Here. Member Snyder. Member Prudhomme Bauer. Member Backus.
Here.
Member Smith. Member Jones. Member Powell
Here.
and Member Selna. It is a quorum.
Okay. Is there any of the public on Zoom?
Just Charity as a safety precaution.
Okay. Okay, so there's no public comment. Minutes from the last meeting, which is November 20th, 2025. Is there any discussion on that? Oh, November 6th, scratch the guess. So it's instead of November 20th, that's stated it's November 6th. Okay. So is there any discussion from those meetings?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the November 6th meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
And the meetings are approved. Okay, for new business, selection of vice chair to replace Becky, correct? Replacing Becky Keck. Do we have a nomination?
I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Did Becky, like, she resigned from the committee? Okay. Just was one clarification. Thank you. I would like to make a motion that we nominate Joe Conk as our vice chair. I think he does an excellent job at our meetings, and I think he could step in and fill your shoes very well.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you for your
Absolutely.
support.
Come on, Joe.
So do you accept this? Okay, so let's vote. All in favor for Joe Conk being the vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, then Joe Conk will be our new vice chair. Thank you. Okay, moving on, updates to chapter 7. I guess we're just going to vote on sending that on to the planning commission. Okay.
These are all the changes that we discussed last time, plus Clover has gone through and made all of the little edits to the printer to make sure that capitalization is the capitalization thing. So, that there are no other questions or comments, I think we can go ahead and take that.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the chapter 7?
I'm trying to remember, Bruce. I know I sent some in for the last meeting. That didn't happen. And it had to do with the special event sign. And it was much more of a question is that, and I'm trying to find out which page it's on. It's not the number. It had to do with permitting.
So the question we would ask.
Right.
And so when we do a special event, we have a special event permit that goes.
And that,
Parks and Rec.
correct.
And part of that is doing the signs for that special event.
No, it doesn't. There is nothing in that application process that has any signage that goes through that process.
So it does not go through to planning commission.
No, but they don't even review it.
No, we do. The staff reviews it at the staff level as part of.
Okay, when I fill out Because and I'm asking this question legitimately because over the years, I have filled out that application 100 times. And I never have had to give to Parks and Rec as part of the application process, anything on signage.
Supposed to be part of the
All I've had to do, I've never given it as part of that. I've only had to give what street closures are going to be.
That's signage is.
What section are we talking about here?
Yeah.
It is,
For
but
section
it's never been
7,
required.
110,
It's, I'm just giving a process
Page
issue
30
more than anything.
down the bottom.
So evidently we have it in there, but it's not being done.
Special events, that's, get them, signage is really. So when we do things like the criterion, right,
Mhm,
where streets are closed, parking is in specific
mhm,
places,
mhm.
they tell us where they are putting those signs, because 99% of those are portable signs. We have to make sure that they're back out of the view of traffic, if there's any traffic.
That might be in there, but I have to tell you, it's not being done for everybody. Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying it's, if it's there, then everybody has to have it because we're not doing, yeah. Okay, but there's never been a fee either.
Public can't, or Jerry can't hear.
You can't hear?
So the fee for that is included, if there is a fee for this, for the application, all of the review that we all do internally is part of that fee.
I just want to make sure that's where the fee is in that application.
Correct.
Thank you, Ruth,
Yep.
for clarifying all of that. Thanks.
And it is written down. It is stated here. And
That-
what you're talking about,
It's the special event permit is separate from the signage. We're only talking about signage. So that special event permit is a process that is managed by like I said, Parks and Rec.
Recreation.
And so they get an application in, it goes to all of the departments, we all review it, make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be, and then we approve it.
Okay.
So there is a fee associated with that application.
But so that's not part of temporary signs and banners?
Which section are you at now?
Section 7-110.
Page 34
Page
at the
34.
bottom.
Page 34. Where are you at?
So it's
Special
only
events.
the location that's being reviewed,
Right, it's the location of the signs,
not the sign itself.
right? Not this, we can't, all we can do anymore is manner and placement. We can't do any text, anything. So if you have
Okay.
to read the sign to modify, to regulate it. So we just consider these as part of a special event that you're gonna have signage directing traffic, that sort of thing. That's what we're talking about.
Be clear in there.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
I just think it's unclear what's being reviewed. That's all.
Yep,
Mhm.
and clarify in the application.
Do anybody want to make a motion?
I think that's it. No questions. No question.
No questions. No questions. So we need to vote on passing this on.
If you want, for future reference going forward, I putting suggested motions. in here.
Oh, great. Super.
Just so you guys know, just for your information, in the staff reports,
Yeah, okay.
makes it a little bit easier for those.
Yeah, thank you.
I can make a motion, that we approve the change of the updates to the chapter 7, sign.
Do I hear a second?
A
Second. Doesn't give it to Joe.
Okay. All approved. Approving this for the chapter 7, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, then chapter 7 revisions have been approved. Next is the chapter 8 for the outdoor lighting. Is there any discussion on that?
Not
On
that I
that,
have.
none. So I will ask for a motion then.
I can make a motion that we approve the changes to the zoning update changes to the chapter 8 zoning code on outdoor lighting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor of the revisions of chapter 8 and sending it on, say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Okay, hearing none, then it is approved. Okay. Discussions only for chapter 9. Ruth, do you want to start on that?
So this is landscape design standards, obviously. We've gone through this one before, so if we're back, we've made all of the changes that has been suggested by the CAC. Do you want to go through this section by section? Is that good?
Hey, what does everybody think?
Sure.
I had some questions from last time, but yeah, if you will.
Okay, sure. So purpose and intent is the first section, obviously, and this is where we're talking about why we're doing it. We cleaned up a lot of language there, deleted, we tightened up the language. And then again, to make things more consistent, changed it from principles of landscape design standards to the purpose is. We deleted some references to previous actions that were at the end of that section. So does anybody have questions about purpose and intent? Okay. Applicability. Again, we did some cleaning up of language. There was a lot of tightening up of language just to make things clearer and less ambiguous. So here we talked about where landscaping is required. We've changed the language and to specify the requirement to conform to standards if the value of improvements to a property exceeds 50% of the assessed value, so that we don't have people who make significant changes to a property and then don't upgrade the landscaping accordingly.
I had a question.
Sure.
This includes single family homes, right?
No, it does not.
The family residential.
Oh, that we got it in here as single family residential. It should be struck. 020A. It should have been struck, except for single family residences. And it should still say that. It should be except single family residential dwelling units rather than single family residences. Got that? All right. Section 9-030, we struck basic just to show, requirements are requirements, whether they're basic or not basic. So then here again, tighten things up, talking about a minimum of 4 inches of topsoil. We struck the extra 4 language out. Added erosion mitigation language that wasn't there before. And then why we have specified landscape areas to be able to include organic and inorganic matter for design review or community development director, we should just allow it, period. Let's see, so then we added down in subsection F, majority of each design plan should incorporate xeriscaping concepts, including number 6, we added incorporation of passive drainage and parking lot landscaping. We spent a lot of time changing design to plan. It's not a landscape. When we look at it, it says landscaping plan. We need to be consistent in the zoning code. Again, you can see where Clover has taken away my capitals.
You said that should it be shall? Are we?
I'm sorry, which where?
F?
Yes, so we are a little iffy on that one just because of we want to encourage people to do it,
Okay.
right? But we can't really, I don't think we want to go down the forcing xeriscaping.
So you've gone through all in the.
Yeah, right.
Should and shalls, you've figured out.
Yep. Okay. So K, we required, wait a minute, I don't know where it's from. Yes. So K, we talk about having to provide a financial assurance for commercial and industrial projects, multifamily, those sorts of things to make sure that they don't get done with their project and say, hey, we're out of money. Now we're not putting any landscaping in. So that's why we require those. We want to make sure they install, everything is shown on the approved landscape and irrigation plans. Front yard residential landscaping. And here we're talking about, and we should probably clarify this a bit in master plan subdivision. So when you have a mountain gate or a something like that, or a crossroads where they build a house and then it's dirt in the front and there's no landscaping, no C of O until you put the landscaping in.
At least in the front.
Yes. If you want dirt in the back, I can't do much about that. Again, cleaning up the citations of previous actions, cleaning up the number versus the words on numbers. And so that's it for that section. Any other questions?
I see we've knocked it down from 180 days, but that vegetation down. to
Right.
60.
Yep. Yeah, we don't need to look at dead plants for that long. Okay, sustainable design aspects, including but not limited to. So we're trying to, again, get some of the squishy language out. And so we've added a little additional things to the list of sustainable design, good soil preparation and depth, making sure that it doesn't do you any good to just rake the surface. You have to actually get the rototiller out and till things up. Use of mulch or landscape rock, low water use, drought tolerant plants and trees. We added trees to this. Active incorporation of passive water harvesting shall be encouraged and reduce the parking requirement by 10%. Again, that little reduction in parking requirements for that active watering will make a difference in the water consumption. And then use of structures and plants or trees to mitigate impact of sun and wind on structures in public areas. And that's about what we cleaned up in that section. Again, striking previous actions. So do we have any questions on sustainable design? All right. Shading techniques. So here, this was a section that we added previously to talk about shading of streets, sidewalks, and pedestrian ways as part of larger projects. So, and that's what we have here for the purpose basically is to promote safe, comfortable pedestrian environments in residential and commercial areas, reduce urban heat impacts, improve access to the community's trail network by integrating shading and connectivity into site design. So this section goes through So we define who it applies to, which is any residential or commercial property within 500 feet calculated from a designated public trail, bike path, or multi-use corridor, or redevelopment or major site improvements exceeding, again, 50% of the property's assessed value. So this means if you're close to a trail, a bike path, or a multi-use corridor, you're going to be putting in some trees to help shade that area.
Ask you,
Uh-huh.
this 500 feet, that's almost 2 football fields away. That's a long ways.
500 feet? Well,
Distance for somebody responsible.
right,
You're Jason.
right. If your property like 500 feet, yeah. Yeah, let us take another look at that and get back. And it's not a short distance, I'll agree with you. So
Well,
let's take,
Well, you
let's-
started with 1,000.
right, now we're down to 500.
So maybe.
Do I hear
250?
250? Okay, again, sidewalk shading requirements, we gotta have fewer S's strung together. All public facing sidewalks within or adjacent to the development should have aimed to achieve 75% shade coverage at solar noon on the June 21st. Again, this is to provide some heat and sun relief from people walking on the sidewalks and public pathways, because it does get hot here. So, and again, this is targeted towards, new projects. So not necessarily, if this gets adopted, it doesn't mean that if you now live within 500 feet of a trailhead, you have to put in all of this landscaping. This is for developers. That's who this is targeted to. So it goes on to talk about which trees can be used. It gives you options here: architectural or structural elements, awnings, arcades, solar shade panels, landscape integrated solutions such as vine colored trellises, or living walls. So those are all of the things that we're talking about having developers do now that have not been done in the past to kind of make those. We have them install sidewalks and multi-use paths and bike trails, and people don't use them because it just gets too hot. And then they're like, well, why should I put this in? Nobody uses it. It's too hot. Well, here's why. Because now you're going to do these things. So we talk about trail access next, connectivity. So again, trying to get developments to connect to the trail. We have a trails master plan with a fabulous map, and that talks in great detail about connectivity between different trails, sidewalks, bike paths, all of those things, to ensure that if somebody comes in and develops in between two trailheads, that there's a there's a trail that connects those trailheads. So there's continuity. People have a continuity from one spot to the next. So here we talk about connectivity, trailhead enhancements. Again, you gotta put a bench there for people to sit down on. There has to be shade, bike racks, trash recycling. So those things, we need to start requiring those things as part of the development process. And then, of course, maintenance of the installations. So that was a lot of information. Most of it's new. So do we have any questions on shading techniques? Suggestions?
Nope.
All right. Buffering. So buffering is something that we do between uses to kind of mitigate the impact that a more intense use would have on a less intense use. So think of commercial versus residential. When you have commercial backing up to a residential area, you want to make sure there's buffering to mitigate the impact that commercial use will have on residential. So we talk about that in the first section A, adjacent streets and zoning districts and land uses. So here we talk about where you're required to have landscape buffers. Little sentence in blue: landscape borders shall be placed between adjacent land uses and zoning districts as described in the following table. Maybe we should say that's a buffer rather than a border. Section 9-060A. You see that? Yeah, yeah. Shall be placed between adjacent land uses and zoning districts as described in the following table. So here, what can you use for a buffer? Solids, landscape screening, berm, solid walls, or a combination, excuse me, thereof. Any depth shall be the equivalent of the required setback. The buffering must be designed to provide a year-round visual screen. That's existing language. Sufficient buffering shall be provided when topographical or other barriers do not provide reasonable screening or where there is a need to, and again, shield neighboring properties from adverse visual or other effects. We have or there, but there's nothing beyond that. There's nothing past the or, so I think we just, here. Page 9 of 25. Unless, yep,
Yours marked in.
yep, or is marked out, right, but we have this just needs to be, that sentence just needs to be moved up.
And then
So the width of the landscape buffer between two incompatible uses shall increase with the setback of the building as follows. So the width of the, so you're not, so this way, we don't have a 50-foot setback and a 10-foot landscape buffer. It's got to be proportionate to the setback. Let's see. So now if we talk about averaging of the buffer areas permitted as long as a minimum 1/2 of the required buffer is maintained. So a lot of times when you drive through communities, you'll see landscape buffers and it's just this big straight line and it just things, bushes and shrubs and then a tree and then three shrubs and then a bush and then some flowers and then you just see the same thing repeated over and over again. So with this, what this section allows us to do is take a look at, okay, so if it's 100 by 10 feet deep, we know what it's 1,000 square feet of landscaping. So instead of having that 10-foot strip, you can have it shallower in some places and deeper in others. So it's not just this, it doesn't look like a row of little soldiers standing there on the side of the street, right? So instead of a straight line like this going down the street, you have landscaping that kind of does this and it has some visual interest. So that's what this section is talking about. So are we good with that buffering? Any questions? All right. Irrigation and maintenance. We got rid of that and we changed it to minimum plant size and spacing requirements. So yep, this is the table. So we've added this just again for a better description of what happens or a better description of what we expect as minimum tree and plant sizes. So when we talk about, you know, a commercial or an industrial tree, right? For instance, and it's a minimum of a 36-inch box. You don't want just a teeny tiny little stick coming out of a giant box and go, hey, it's a 36-inch box and I've got a tree in it. So this counts. With the caliper, they measure the trunk size so that so we're sure that we're getting consistent plant size installed and that they're going to survive. So that's the purpose of this table. And again, we talk about, you know, minimum plant height. If you got a 15-gallon, I don't want, you know, a little 3-foot shrub. You want something that's going to be more substantial. And then the maximum distance between trees so that we don't have them, again, spread far apart. And when they mature, they're going to do what they're supposed to do, which is provide that buffering. And so the tree planting separation requirements really is just an extension of that previous where we talk about minimum height, minimum separation. So do we have any questions on that section? All right. Restricted planting areas. So we're on to 9-080. So we have site visibility triangles. So those are where two streets intersect. And there's you can't see through that corner, that little triangle. So we require that there be either no or very low landscaping there. So your site of oncoming traffic isn't blocked by vegetation. So that's the first thing. And this just sets forth more details about where we're requiring these, mostly just, again, cleaning up, spelling out 30 and putting in parentheses, just using the number 30. And then referring to the town engineering standards rather than the manual on uniform traffic control devices standards or the town engineer. We're just going to put these details will be in town engineering standards. And that way we're not trying to chase down the traffic control devices standards. So let's see, landscape materials shall not exceed a height of, we've struck it in and struck it out, 18 inches above grade of the roadway within the site visibility triangle. Again, basically knee high and nothing beyond that. And then trees shall have a minimum of 8 feet of clearance, so you don't have a desert willow on the corner with the branches hanging down and then you can't see through it. So are we clear on restricted planting areas? All right. Parking areas. So in here, this is a little bit more detailed simply because nobody likes a big stretch of asphalt with yellow stripes and some curb stops sometimes. So basically what this has done, we've gone through and talked about what's required in parking lots for commercial multifamily residential, industrial uses, so that it's just not a sea of asphalt. So we are requiring canopy trees so that we have, again, the shading from the midday sun in the summer. It gives a community development director some discretion when we talk about existing parking areas. So if somebody comes in and completely remodels a commercial structure, value of the improvements exceed 50%, now they have to bring their landscaping up to snuff. It's not always possible to do with the existing parking lot. So this gives the community development director the ability to go, yes, this meets the intent to the extent that you possibly can. We talk about planters having the minimum sizes for planters so that they're big enough to contain the trees and things that you plant. Everybody has dealt with heaving sidewalks, maybe not, but heaving sidewalks from large roots growing or cracking pavement because you plant a tree and then the roots get so big, they heave everything. Also talking about making sure that the plants are protected from getting hit or run over by cars, standard wheel barriers. Typically, sometimes you use the little curb stops, we call them little cement things. And if you hit those hard enough, ask me how I know, you can move them. So those are not going to be not encouraged for the tree planting areas. A hard poured curb would be far more effective. And then here we have exemptions to this. Any site with 6 or fewer vehicle parking spaces, including ADA, home occupations, vehicle storage, covering parking areas. And again, expansion of an existing development is exempt from the canopy tree standard if the existing parking area is subject to an approved site plan on or before the effective date. So that we can't go make people do it if they've already got an approved plan. So let's see. All landscape areas and parking and planters may all be used as water retention. So again, it's they're notorious for getting tons and tons of water because they're an impervious surface and it usually just runs into a drain, into the storm drain, into the storm sewer. Why not use some of that to water these plants rather than using potable water? So that's what that's talking about. So are we good with those changes in the first section there? All right. Minimum landscaping, a percentage of lot area for multifamily, for new construction, we took all of that out of the other words. And just minimum landscaping for new construction. So this just, again, we're correcting the use of 15, all of the words and just putting the numbers in. And this section basically covers the minimum landscaping that's required when you have a completely new project. So a completely new commercial, completely new industrial. And this just sets forth those requirements for commercial and industrial projects, just to make sure that, again, that we're not just subject to a sea of asphalt. So any issues there? Okay. We're not doing compliance regulations anymore. We do those, we're not putting those in here. Evidently, we've had issues in the past, but really that's a code enforcement matter, so there's no reason to have it in zoning code. Director variances. This again allows the community development director to recommend a waiver or a modification to the standards, especially those that support sustainable development. The directors, and again, now it's not just the director can make the recommendation. It can be, and just say, okay, I'm recommending this and that's it. Now this additional language talks about whether it's accepted, rejected, or modified. So we talk about landscape modifications to a landscape design plan determined to be minor, which is 10% or less of a change in area, number of plantings, or type of plantings, may be allowed by the CDD through an administrative process. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I've got all of these cottonwoods and I would like to replace, 10% of them with desert willow, fine, that's fine. We don't have to go through a whole review process to replace 10 trees, especially when they're use less water. And I think that pretty much covers everything in that section. Do we have any questions on that? Comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
Going back to page 109. You have examples of good parking
Mhm.
planter designs.
Sure.
I'm looking at the one on the left.
Uh-huh.
I don't see any curb cuts in there. It's a raised bed. So
I see what you're saying.
Storm flooding through there. And I understand you're saying you don't like those little cement bumps, but those cement bumps actually provides really great access for stormwater to get in rather than a accelerated selected one area.
Gotcha.
So in front of like the Camp Verde Library, there's the parking area. I think it's all pervious surfaces. And they have those little cement blocks saying like, this is kind of where you park as a car, right? And then it goes into mulch and a bunch of trees and all that stuff. And actually if it runs off throughout the whole area, you're not having gullying, you're not having erosions, and especially if it's impervious, and it spreads out. And it's actually a better stormwater management effort like that than having, and so when I'm looking at these pictures,
Mhm.
they're gorgeous. Looks like someplace in the Midwest I would love to visit and park. But I don't see curb cuts. There's
Gotcha.
no curb cuts. It's just a pretty mulched area that's highly manicured. And so I do question, like, if you want all curb cuts, then you really have to manage the stormwater right there.
Oh, gotcha. So would you recommend then, like on I understand what you're saying and I agree. With that? Okay, we can make some adjustments for that.
You know, each development's different.
Sure.
Is it better to have curb cuts or can we have it more like a free for all for your stormwater? You know, it really depends on the development, but I would at least recommend maybe getting better pictures.
Gotcha. All right. Sure.
And then I have comment on the plant list if we're ready.
Oh, okay. Are we, all right, approved plant list. So just some background on this. The town worked with, may I remind me the guy's name at the cactus place? Yes. At the cactus place out on 89A, going up towards Jerome, to develop an approved plant list of low, very low and moderate plants that are on the approved plant list. So we've gone through a lot of these. There's one that I want to make sure we struck because it just is toxic. Is it a shrub? It was the heavenly bamboo. Honeysuckle.
Where's that?
I don't see it anymore, so we did actually
I see it on page 114. It's struck.
114. Heavenly bamboo.
Lists.
Oh, yeah.
Most of
Protina, rosemary, which one? What's it? I'm not seeing it on my version, so what is it between?
The second one down says heavenly.
Oh, there it is, Chinese juniper, yes. Yeah, yep, that all comes, so
Oh.
we're striking all of that out. That whole thing is out.
That's the only thing, yeah.
Yes, so I did go back and look all of these up, saw that and was mortified. So. Do we have any questions or comments on any of the, plants here? We did add some.
My only question is, there's native grasses, like native bunch grasses. You
Huh?
have one, blue gamma.
Uh-huh.
There's only one? Like, could we not add a little bit more other bunch grasses? I'm not seeing any other bunch grasses.
Okay, which page are you on with bunch grass?
I mean, there's not a section for it. It's just recommended decorative plants on the last page.
Oh,
The second
gotcha,
to the
gotcha.
last is blue gamma. And, you know, there's like good
it's-
saxatone. I don't know I'm not a botanist, but there are other good bunch grasses that I would think that would be beneficial to include. And if you want, I can try to find, I mean, like, I would recommend going to the extension
Yeah,
and seeing there.
U of A.
Yeah. And there's a lot there.
And I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
I have more than one.
Yeah, because what I'm assuming is if it's not on this list, you can't put it in your yard, or you can't put it in a new design.
You can't put it, right, you can't use it in a commercial or industrial or a new residential subdivision.
So I would just recommend adding some more grasses
Yeah, and that second opinion, just, you know. generally.
besides,
Yeah, you agree?
For this list.
Yeah,
mhm.
for the miscellaneous. Okay,
Because I also wonder if he's just choosing plants that you can buy at his store. I mean, that's good. That's good on him.
He sells
Good on him.
cactus.
But like, maybe we should, yeah, I agree. Second opinion on plant lists.
On grasses.
On grasses or, I don't know.
But U of A is very.
Yeah, we might wanna ask.
yeah. Right, just the ag extension. Okay, anybody have any other suggestions, comments, anything? Mhm. Oh, need to check with Jacob, still okay at the AZ Cooperative Extension. Who's JS? Oh, Jessica. Is Jessica online, Gus? Okay. All right. Yep, follow up on that. Okay. All right. So with that, we will, like I said, go back. I want to get out of order here and, make these corrections, check out what the U of A has to recommend for this area for trees and grass, and other plantings.
Very good.
All right,
Um,
for next time. Oh, so we're gonna do 11?
no.
Oh, so next time
Yeah.
we will be.
Yeah,
come back-
discussion,
Question first.
Yeah.
Back onto this.
Right. Right, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta remember it now. Right, so next time we'll be back with the corrections to landscape. And then we will be talking about chapter 11, 13, I'm sorry, which is the last one. It's enforcement and amendments and, oh, yeah.
Can I have one
penalties.
question back on landscape
Uh-huh.
before we finish up? Yes. Should there be some kind of statement in there that other plant material could be allowed? Right, because we're talking different grasses and things, there's always something, and some landscape architect might come in and say, why can't we use this? In other words, should we allow, so somebody's coming forward and
yeah, even with our second opinion, we might not
Oh, this is.
cover all our bases.
So what I've done in the past is, so because I will get, landscape plans and they'll have something on there that isn't on the list. And
Right.
my response to them is, okay, demonstrate to me that this is a low water plant, right? And we'll consider it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can certainly add
you
that
certainly
language.
do that, but should it be a minor statement in here?
I would also say that when you guys explained to me the purpose of a plant list on here
Mhm.
was that to prevent certain invasive trees or something like that. So specifically in the plant list, I made sure there was no Chilean mesquite because we don't want it to hybridize with our native, velvet mesquite, whatever mesquite is here. And it was, it's listed in certain places, like in the Phoenix area. And we pulled that information and I was like, we can't have that because if we want to keep our mesquites and native mesquites here, we can't have it hybridized with other mesquites.
Mm.
It can't cross pollinate.
Can't cross pollinate. So I think there is a question of, this is a very limited list for sure.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to, affect the native, trees and plants here.
So-
What's that middle ground?
But could we put in language something like, if they bring it forward, that it gets reviewed by a U of A extension or something for, so that is not an invasive, something like that.
I think we could do a landscape architect. They have pretty broad knowledge of botany and what's invasive and what's not.
But we would have to have it basically said, this is a non-invasive plant.
Yeah, I wouldn't want staff to have to get too bogged down with
No.
trying to decide, having the argument discussion with somebody about what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I mean,
But they
we
get
all
it-
know about those argumentative people who want to tell you.
I don't know if like the Chilean mesquite, that's probably not invasive. It's not native, but non-native and invasive are two different things.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and I would hate for staff, I don't have botany background, but I know just enough to get me in trouble. But staff especially does not have that background. And I feel bad for them to be forced to enforce something that they don't know enough about.
Well, and again, this.
The applicant would have to bring documentation that says it's non-invasive or non-native,
So it could be like
some kind of.
non-invasive plants could be considered by staff or however you want to word that.
And again, this is why when people want to propose something that's not on the list, my response is, prove to me that it fits. So when we get a landscape design, 9 times out of 10, they're done by a landscape architect. They stamp and seal it and say, I've looked at all the rules. This all meets all of your rules. So we could write something in that says no invasive species. So that we just, none of them, I don't care where they come from, none, you're not bringing them in. And that way, that pretty much, that's pretty clear.
Right.
And then if there's something on there that's an invasive species, it's on the architect, the LA, to make that correction. And if it starts growing and invading, cause problems, that they have to remedy it. That way, we're not going through line by line, plant by plant. They have to verify that these meet our standards.
Does that include, plants or trees that would draw pests, particular pests?
I don't know that it would. I mean, I'm trying to think of something that's gonna, what kind of plant would draw?
Like a tree
Oh, God, yeah.
that draws, oops.
Is it on our list?
That's not on your list.
Yeah.
I mean, tree of heaven is clearly invasive, so it's part of that list.
Okay,
Um,
that's true.
but I don't know what draws particular pests.
Yeah, I'm trying to
There could
think.
be a particular kind of evergreen tree or something that's gonna attract bark beetles or.
Or can you say something like, other plants could potentially be considered based off of U of A Extension's native plant list or something?
Yeah.
That, I mean, at least like another source.
But that's-
Yeah,
I
Pike
was
County's
wondering- That's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
if we could
rather
do something
than,
like
Yeah,
because
it's
the-
actually a source to go and
that. It's
still
on
walking
the
in.
applicant to provide that.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And that's the only reason why I brought up, because, like landscape architects, they're gonna bring up a few different ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, they always do.
Okay, so that's all, that's the future agenda items. Okay, so, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
You have everything you need from us?
I believe we do. We'll go back and figure out some language on non-invasive species and that kind of stuff.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
I
Aye. Opposed? Yes. We're adjourned.